Would you guys rather see them being the Tigers being buyers or sellers at this point, or try to play the buy and sell game at the same time with our pitching for some bats maybe? Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but like for a guy like Olsen, for example, you could trade Olsen for a bat if you wanted to. And then it really depends on how they feel about who they have down in Erie right now, or how they feel about Flores and those guys down there. If you wanted to go that route, if they come back healthy, maybe they can do that. If Erod is not gonna fetch, I mean, I still think he's gonna fetch you a king's ransom, if you will, if they decide to trade him. But I think right now, I know this next couple of weeks are gonna be interesting because say they're 2 games back in the AL Central, like it's just gonna be, well, do we make a minor trade or do we make a big trade? And I think the Tigers personally are thinking big picture. They're thinking about this year to be competitive, but the way Scott Harris spoke today, I got the vibe that they're really thinking, okay, you know what? We've made some strides. That's cool, but we're not going to get greedy right now because they really, realistically, in terms of depth now, don't really have a lot to work with.
You said about big picture, small picture, immediate needs versus long-term. It all boils down to, again, do you want to make some kind of fun run at a weak division that gets you really bounced in the playoffs early, or are you trying to build a championship team? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So I think personally, what I would do if you gave me the power, which would be dangerous, obviously, I think you get your starters back. You see what you got with Skubal. You see what you have with Manning. You can move some guys to the bullpen. That should just in itself should make your pitching staff stronger. I think you still deal Erod instantly the second you get something you like. No matter how this team does over the next couple weeks, I think you make that move because you're not getting them back unless they can talk to him and they want to sign him. I guess that's possible. And I've always said they should use Illich's money. So if they can do that, great. I don't know if he's someone I want to invest in long-term. But if that happens, fine. But I think otherwise you make that deal and you try to make things work with the rest of the crew you got in here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens because of we've talked before about who might also be on the market. And it might just be an army of AL Central pitchers. You might see Shane Bieber. You might see Lance Lynn and Lucas Giolito. You might see Stroman. Somebody mentioned Stroman earlier. Stroman has an opt-out. He's due for $25 million next year. I don't know. He probably thinks he can get more or a longer deal. So the Cubs might trade him. So there may be more arms in the market than the Tigers initially expected, and it might be kind of tough to get a decent return. But I don't know. They gotta look at, because it's that or losing for nothing most likely, right? So
what does Jason Foley bring?
And that's interesting. I mean, it's a different kind of reliever, right? I think a very smart organization like the Rays would value him because they value the variation of relievers. And I think a number of organizations would value him, but I don't know.
If you got the cousin of Justin Henry Malloy, is that what you'd expect, or would you think that there'd be more?
I could see something along those lines. Yeah, like a top 10 hitting prospect in an organization.
A
contender who's basically is blocked at every position he could play at. I could see that. I mean, you could see them moving Will Vest or Jose Cisnero, guys who not necessarily going to get a huge return, but they think that they can move on from those guys, get something to help build the future. But as you mentioned, like some of these arms are coming back. Brisky's going to come back, probably be in the bullpen. Yep. Bido, he pitched well as a starter. Maybe he comes back as a starter. Maybe they move him to the bullpen. And like you said with Olsen, maybe they move him to the bullpen. When they mentioned trading Reese Olsen, I kind of felt like it kind of took me back to like Jair Jurgens. Like just a guy who came up and looked pretty good for a little bit, and he was skinny and had good stuff, and they moved him. Yeah. And then, they got Edgar Renteria, so that wasn't great for them. But Jurgens had that great year or two with Atlanta, and then broke down because of his size. So at least that's what you blame it on. So maybe they'd move Olsen, but that was a team that was really going for it, not